So you want to get into portrait photography, but you're wondering which camera to start out with. Don't worry, I got you covered. But first, we have to ask a few questions, and these are, what system would you dedicate yourself to? From Nikon, Sony, Canon, and Fujifilm. But before we get fully into it, only 1% of you are subscribed to the channel. Hi mom and family. So hit that like, hit that subscribe before we get on with this, because we tend to forget towards the end. So let's do it now. When we know which system we dedicate ourselves to, it tends to take off a lot of the load because we know which lenses we're gonna get, what type of compatibility we're expecting with our camera. Think it through. You can always change systems later on by selling your gear, which can seem like a lot. So make sure you think about your first choice and you stick with it. Starting off, let's get into my #1 recommendation for a starter camera, and that is the Sony a6400. It is priced at around $800 and it is for the E-mount Sony system. It's a crop sensor mirrorless. It's pretty compact and pretty small, but it can really pack quite a punch. Now keep in mind it is crop sensor, so it's gonna have a 1.5 times zoom in because of the crop factor. There are more videos that explain fully what that means. On a short note, you're going to have to get crop sensor lenses for this camera, which Sony does offer. There's a lot of third party that offer some great lenses. Like for example, one of my favorite lenses of all time, the 56mm Sigma DCDN Contemporary for the Sony ASPC mount. This lens is for crop sensor, but it has some of the sharpest images around. It's a very sharp lens, and if you have it, people aren't going to notice if you use a crop sensor camera. In fact, you can go on throughout your whole photography career with just that lens and that camera, which should be priced at around $1,400 in total for the thing. I know that the Sigma 56 is around $350, so it's a pretty cheap lens, pretty affordable. So yeah, check it out. Check out the Sigma Trio as well. And right next up is the Canon R10 for the Canon mirrorless system. All of these cameras are mirrorless. All of the ones that I'm going to mention are mirrorless because mirrorless is just the future, and you want to get something that'll help you move on with the times as we go on. These cameras have off-camera flash compatibility, which if you're doing portrait photography, I definitely recommend having that choice open to you in the future. Don't just stick to doing daylight, because day is gonna go out pretty fast, and having flash really adds a new perspective into your photography. So I'm sorry if I'm forcing that into my recommendations, but keep that in mind as we go forward. So the R10 itself is pretty good. It's newly released, came out like 3 months ago, but it's crop sensor R10. It's the entry mirrorless camera they've put out besides the M50 or whatever it's called, but it's pretty good. It's priced at around $1,100 with a lens included. It has some pretty sharp images. It has some of the autofocus features or quality that the R3 has, their hybrid or flagship camera that they provide or offer. If you want to go a little further, then I would recommend checking out the R7, which is basically the R10's older brother. Now keep in mind, the Canon offers very little third-party lenses, so you're mostly going to be shopping from their Canon lenses that they offer already, which are pretty expensive. So keep that in mind as you're going forward with purchasing a Canon camera. Next up, we got Nikon. So Nikon has a little bit of a bad rep in the community. It used to be one of the biggest DSLR manufacturers of its time, but now in the mirrorless world, it's getting pretty stale, but they're making a pretty good comeback from what I've heard. And with that, I'm gonna recommend the Nikon Z50. Now keep in mind, the autofocus is very subpar compared to all these other cameras that I just mentioned, but the camera science, which basically means the color science that comes from the camera, the colors that come out as soon as you take the picture, are pretty great. If you aren't going to do a lot of heavy edits on your images through Lightroom or Photoshop, then I'd say check out this camera, because the colors that you get out right away from the camera are amazing. So yeah, the Z50 is priced at around $850, and if you want to take it to the next level or get a prettier body, then I would recommend the Z50, which is pretty great. It has a retro body. It's has some of the same specs as the Z50. So yeah, check that one out if you like retro bodies. And yeah, Nikon also doesn't have that much third party. I'm not sure, but I know it's not as strict as Canon, or maybe it's the opposite. I'm not sure, but yeah, you're mainly going to be purchasing Nikon lenses that the first party offers. For Fujifilm cameras, I'm not very well informed, so I can't give you a good starter recommendation, but there is this guy who can really give you a pretty good retrospective of what you should expect. His name is Pal2Tech, and I'm going to link down one of the videos that you guys should check out, only if you are really set out on going the Fujifilm route. They have some pretty good colors. The cameras are mostly all crop sensor, so keep that in mind as you're going into that. And with that, I'm going to conclude the video, so let me know what you ended up picking, you know. And if you made it this far, then subscribe, leave a like, tell me a comment, you know, maybe I look like a poo-poo butt face, who knows, whatever. Just put something down there, as it really helps the algorithm pick up the video and shoot it out to more people. Or, you know, send this to a photographer friend or someone who's interested in starting out. It can really help someone really think these ideas through. So yeah, consider doing that, and yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.